I'm going to show you how to make a more advanced version of a spring. You might have seen some tutorials where they use a circle and something like, yeah, circle and then an empty. And then they use a screw modifier and they kind of screw it up, kind of like this. So, yeah, nothing crazy. Select the empty and then screw it up. Add more iterations. You've got your spring. That's your spring. But in some cases, you need something more advanced. So let me delete that. I'll grab a little reference image. I'll import it as a plane. Get in preview mode. So yeah, this is a car shock absorber. It's got a lot of very specific features. Namely, the features are it kind of gets tighter around this part at the top and the bottom. So between like the levels. It also flares out like this. I'm really exaggerating it here. But, yeah, last feature, it has kind of a ground top like that. So we're going to try and do all of that. I'm going to use a spiral curve, a Bezier curve, and I'm going to basically extrude an array of cylinders along it. First thing first is you want to go into your preferences and enable an add-on called Add Curve Extra Objects. This is, and normally, if you go on your add menu, you should see a lot more options here. Normally there's just Bezier and circle and a few other things, I think. But here you want to go down all the way down to curve spirals, Archimedean. I'm going to go through the settings really quickly. You want to mainly change the height. Yeah, the height is, as you can see, it determines the height of each stage of your spring. Essentially, I'm going to use my reference a lot here, but turns is how many times the pattern repeats itself. Let's put 5. 5 is I feel like that's a good number. Steps is kind of the resolution of your spring, so like, yeah, you can see what it does. I feel like 16 is good enough. Let's put 32. That's good. Radius growth, yeah, that's self-explanatory, as you see. It makes like an opening spiral. And you definitely want it to be on Bezier. You can put auto if you want. Either way works, in my experience. Don't enable cyclic. But yeah, that's it for now. Now what we're going to do is we can add our cylinder. When we add it, I'm going to put only 16 faces. I don't need that many. And then capped fill type, you want nothing. Saves us a tiny bit of time. You're going to want to go into edit mode and add some loop cuts to help with the deformation. So you click that, you scroll, do scroll wheel, and you essentially want square faces. So depending on how many faces you chose before, if you're doing something from really close up, you might have wanted something like 64 faces. In my case, 16 is more than enough, because if I do smooth shading, you can't really tell the difference. And you can always add a subdivision surface modifier later on. So I'm going to add the array modifier and rotate this 90 degrees. Put 1 on the z-axis and then add a curve modifier and select our Bezier curve, the spiral. So it looks awful right now, but it's fine. Maybe if we put the y-axis, yeah, there we go, that's it. And I think it wants it to be negative, or we could do rotate our cylinder 180 degrees, and yeah, that works. Nice. So we can start adding more iterations to fill in our spiral. This should be enough. Oh, before I forget, you might notice there's like seams between the cylinders. You can just fix that by ticking the merge tick box on the array modifier. That's fine. That's all done. This looks great, but we wanted the features of having the ground tops and the middle flaring out and the ends being closer together. So I'm going to show you how you can do that. It's actually relatively easy. It's just you need to know the right tools, which tools you want to use. So First thing is the flaring out. So I've got everything selected right now, but let's say I didn't. You can just press A to select everything, and then you want to press Shift S, drag down, cursor selected. What we're going to do is essentially add an object. So I'm going to do Shift A within edit mode and add a circle. So we added a Bezier circle, and then I'm going to press S to scale and 0 to make it infinitely small. The reason why we're doing this is now we have kind of something in the middle of our spring that's even in the middle, kind of looking from the top, and we can use this with proportional editing up here to scale our spring and make it flare out. You want to scroll until almost all of it is affected, and then you might want to make it just a bit more exaggerated than you would think. I've noticed, you know, at least I tend to kind of be a little too subtle with it, and then it doesn't really have the full effect. But one other thing you could do is cancel that. When you do this, you're kind of scaling on all axes, and so you might notice it kind of also scales on the z-axis like this, and it kind of makes it here in this zone, it kind of makes it bigger, which you might not want. So what you can do is limit the scaling on only the y and x axis. You can do this by pressing Shift Z, and that's going to exclude the z-axis from your scaling. That works with all other transforms as well. It's really useful. So yeah, the other thing is making the ends closer. So you might be tempted to do with proportional editing, but it's finicky. The trick is to go into proportional editing and say connected only. And now it should kind of work. If you make it bigger, you'll see it kind of follows the pecking order, I guess. So yeah, you can do that. Press G to grab and then kind of move it down. If you want, you can go outside and make your array a little more plentiful so that you have a better idea of what you're doing. Yeah, we'll cut off the ends at the end, so you'll see it's fine when we do the ground top and bottom. Let me do this one as well. That looks pretty good. That looks fairly close to our That looks pretty good. That looks fairly close to our reference. I feel satisfied with this. Now, the important part is doing the cuts. So this can be a little complicated. I've seen it really depends on how lucky you are almost. Let me just adjust the curve a tiny bit more. I don't want too much intersection. You can go in solid mode to see the intersections better. Here I feel like it's perfect. Okay, so now you're going to want to add a cube. This is a pretty good size, and you want to kind of cut it off almost at the middle. You can check your reference again. If you check, yeah, it's a bit more than half of it is kind of ground away. Just eyeballing it. And then let me do the second one. I'm going to duplicate this cube, consider it to z-axis, look at it from the front, and then do the same thing basically. What we're going to do is use these cubes as Boolean operators. Get all of these guys, move them into a collection I'll call Spring. And then I'll keep my archive hidden. What I'm going to do is, just for safety, I'm going to duplicate my spring and then press M to move and put it in the archive. And now I'm going to apply my modifiers. So if anything goes wrong, you still have it in your archive, your extra spring that's kind of still procedural. That's always a good thing to keep. Thank you, Andrew Price. You're definitely the one who taught me that. And now we have a solid spring with a mesh. A real mesh. So that's really nice, but now we need to do our famous Boolean operation. So I'm going to use the Boolean modifier, click on the cube, that's 1, Control A I think, and then delete this cube. That's 1 done, and then select the spring again, Boolean, and then intersect I think, and select the cube. Nice, union, and apply that with Control A again, and you can delete your cube as well. So now you have your spring. It's ground up and everything. It's great, but it's got a huge opening. You want to get rid of that, so we're going to click on it and go into edit mode. Now, I've done this quite a few times, so I know I've kind of been lucky here. This can really become messed up. One thing that you could do, if I go back a bit, before I deleted the cube and before I applied the modifier, union, what you can do is you can go into wireframe mode by pressing Shift Z and check how your wireframe looks basically. In my case it looks alright. What you're really looking out for, you'll see what you're looking out for. It can be very messed up. Let me check how to go into here, apply, delete the cube, and then Shift C again to go back into preview mode. We've got our mesh. Now you're gonna kind of want to go in from the back of the wound. So here that's where that is for me, and kind of fill it up. In my case it's actually quite easy, but that's basically come down to luck. Let me undo that a bit. Essentially what you want to avoid is a mesh with too many tries or triple faces, I guess. Let me fill that and then select another edge, press fill. So that's fine. Then you've got 4 faces, so 1, 2, 3, 4. If you know anything about meshes, you know that's good. That's a good number for meshes to have four sides. Let me add here another one, fill with F. Select the other edge and fill, and then yeah, this feels a lot better. You kind of want them to be all parallel to avoid any weird shading glitches. And then that's almost alright. I'm not satisfied with these last few ones, so I'm gonna fill these two, do that, and then go forward with that. Cool. Now I'm satisfied with that. That's good. That's a good first one. You might notice it looks very weird because I enabled smooth shading earlier on. So what we're going to do is go into our object data properties and go into normals and select auto smooth. That fixes most of our issues. If I go in solid mode, there's still quite a lot here at the back, and that's because our auto smoothing is kind of based on the angle. So it's creating artifacts because it's getting confused. All you've got to do is just help it out. You're human, so you kind of know where the edges are. So just select the back of one of the edges, and then Control left click and right click, and then in the right click menu it's mark sharp or H, and you might notice it kind of marks it as sharp, so it makes it look sharp in the shading. So you can just select it here by picking the path with Control left click, and then yeah, you just go along, mark sharp every so often, and you've basically got your nice looking ground end. I kind of want this to be higher like this, but I don't know. Maybe I'll make it like that. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I feel like that's the closest to my reference. Let me do the same on the other side. And now it looks fine. It's okay. I've seen worse. I've definitely done worse. So this is cool. And then let's just do the same on the bottom. So let me focus on that. And then the rest, you can hold F even if you're that kind of person, but I'm not. That's not fine. That's absolutely horrendous. I hate that. It's fine. Everything's good. There we go. And you're done with this one as well. And then yeah, let's just do the same, marking stuff as sharp. Rigmarole. Yeah, that's fine. If you've never used the pick shortest path tool, you'll see it's very forgiving, but there's a kind of logic to it. You've got your spring. It's got all these cool features to it, and then all you need to do is just texture it. I'm gonna color pick the color of the spring, make it metallic, of course. Give it some clear coat because why not? And then maybe some roughness. That kind of looks like it. So yeah, this is your spring. You know, you can make it flex or whatever. I'm sure you can keep it procedural in a better way. I'm sure there's better ways of doing this, but this is kind of the ways I've found out, and a few of the tools like making it flare out and cutting away the top and bottom and getting them closer, things that I wish I'd known earlier. So I hope this helped you.